Hey everybody, welcome to Henry Disc Golf. I am Jerry. Today I'm going to be coming at you with an in the bag, kind of go over what I'm throwing currently, what my thoughts are on the discs, and also potentially what equipment I use. So here we have my Rover cart with my Voyager bag. This is a Voyager 1 bag. It's not an updated version, so it only has little side pockets. I do have a chalk bag in the bag. I do have a mini over here, and then I have markers, Ripped Revenge, currently my sunglasses, which I left in the bag. And then also we have a towel on the bag, which I never use, a couple of bag tags, and then I always have a couple of towels in the bag as well. To start off with what's in my bag, currently I am using Tour Series AVRs as my putter, AVR putt and approach mold. There's a lot of controversy over this one here. There's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, AVR. But this is the disc that I started putting with when I first started disc golfing back in 2009. This is the putter that I always go back to. I've tried Lunas, I've tried the Pure, I've tried Ricos, I've tried quite a few different putters, an Big Beat AVR, a KC Pro AVR, but I just tend to come back to this AVR putt and approach. So it's definitely one of those discs that I enjoy. I try to have as close to a matching set as I can. To me, it doesn't matter too much about the foil color anymore. I just rotate them on a regular basis. Getting into my throwing putters, I throw 2 Star AVRs. I also throw the AVR as well. This is my straight to understable putter. Both of them fly pretty similar. They're an older run of AVR with the 2 rings underneath. This one, if you can see, I wrote on it myself the Star AVR after the foil rubbed off over time. And then this one I bought is a San Diego Aces Club. Somebody died, and I bought off of Facebook at one point in time. My stable putter that I'm throwing right now is a Finish Line Pace. The Finish Line Pace just throws super straight. If I put it on a little Annie line, it'll turn over and just kind of pan out. If I throw it straight and hard and flat, it'll just go out straight and hard and flat, and then have a little bit of fade to it. If I put it on hyzer, it'll just kind of hold the hyzer line the whole time. This honestly reminds me a lot of when I first picked up a 2020 Tour Series Luna. The one specific one that I had, I've bought multiple other 2020 Lunas, and they never flew like a yellow one that I had. It would just fly whatever line I put it on, it would hold, and it would fly super straight for me. This honestly has been awesome. I've tried a Logic as well. I tried a Sensei. The Sensei, being in the Glow Plastic, dumped a little bit more. It kind of reminded me of my Jawbreaker Zone, which we'll get to here in a second. And then the Logic just would fly super straight and actually remind me a lot of my AVRs that I throw. Next up, we have my approach discs, or my overstable approach discs. I have a soft zone in the Discraft putter plastic, and then I also have a Jawbreaker Zone. The Jawbreaker Zone is getting to the point where it's beat up. It's getting to the point in its life where it just kind of I throw it on a little bit of hyzer, it pops up to flat and then just rides and has a nice consistent fade to it. This one here is new to the bag. I've only had it for a couple of weeks now, but it flies super straight and then has an even more dump than the Jawbreaker Zone. And then I have, for the ones that I really want to be overstable, I have my blue Big Z Paul Macbeth zone here. This thing is the meat hook. It'll go out. It'll immediately start dumping. I throw it on sidearm. I also throw it backhand. I didn't think I would like zones as much as I do. I avoided using these for a long time in my game, but I actually really enjoy throwing them. It's definitely nice to have a super consistent flight out of a disc. Looking into my mid-ranges, currently I only bag two different molds of mid-ranges. So the two different molds of mid-ranges that I'm throwing right now is a Finish Line Supra. The Supra, the slot that I was looking for it to cover are those super straight to slight turnover shots where we're just going to throw it on a little bit of hyzer, have it pop up to flat, and then just ride super straight. It's definitely filling that slot so far. I'm definitely still working with it and learning it. I've only had it for a couple of months now, but because of living in Illinois and having some snow, here and there, it's just kind of one of those things where I didn't want to throw it while the snow was on the ground. Since the snow's melted, I've been trying to throw it a little bit more. The only issue with that is I have matrices. So I have two Electron matrices. One is basically brand new, this one here. I put a little star on it. This one's basically brand new at this point. I've only hit a couple of trees with it, but this one flies super straight and then has a nice consistent dump to it. And then I have my beat up one. My beat up one, I'm throwing it for basically almost a year now. It's got some nice warps in it in the plastic. But basically, if I put this one out flat and hard, it'll wind up turning over a little bit before it comes back. So this has kind of been my understable mid-range. This one's filling into being just kind of that straight one. And then I have a neutron matrix and a proton matrix. The proton matrix was the first matrix that I was throwing. It just was a super consistent, throw it hard, throw it flat. It would go out pretty far and then dump. This one I've liked a lot. It actually reminds me of Rock 3s that I used to throw that were pretty stable. And part of the reason why I like the flight, I didn't like the bead on the Rock 3, but this doesn't have a bead on it. So I really like the way it feels in my hand, but it flies with that same type of stability, where it would just throw it nice and hard, it would go out flat and far, and then just dump. This one, of course, being a nice lightweight 165 gram neutron matrix, just flies a little bit straighter, a little bit longer, and then has that nice consistent fade to it as well. So those are kind of filling all of my slots. The wind fighter as well, this one does a really good job in the wind. It'll fly nice and straight and overstable when it's needed, but if I want something to fly a little bit straighter for a little bit longer, possibly hold a turn or throw a turn, I'll usually go to these matrices. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to my fairways. I only throw two different molds of fairway drivers, but I only have 4 of them. So I throw, for my overstable slot to straight slot, I throw Champion Eagle, 2 of them. This one's a lightweight one that is pretty beat in at this point. So what it'll wind up doing is I'll throw it on hyzer, it'll wind up popping up to flat, going for a long way, and then just has a little bit of fade. Where this one's going to be my wind fighter, it's definitely a lot more consistent in the wind. I will throw it flat and hard. It'll go pretty far, but then it'll have a really consistent dump. If I'm throwing like a spike hyzer or something like that, I'm also going to throw a spike hyzer with it, and it's going to dump on me just about every single time. My other fairway that I choose is Champion Hawkeyes. I have 2 Champion Hawkeyes. The pink one is actually a little bit more heavy than the blue one, but they're kind of the opposite in terms of the Eagles. The pink one is actually more hyzer flip up to flat. So if I throw this thing with a little bit of hyzer, it'll flip up, possibly right over a little bit, and then just have a nice soft fade at the end of its flight, where the blue one tends to still have a little bit more stability to it. I throw this one on hyzer, it'll pop up to flat, hold it, and then have a nice consistent dump on it. Fun fact about this one here, I was throwing at BVR Park, and I threw this into the road, which is York House Road. I threw it into the road. This thing got ran over about 5 times by different cars, and this thing still flies true. The only thing that you can see is you have some tire marks here. on the disc in a couple of spots. But this thing still flies awesome. Like I said, super straight, has a pretty consistent fade. Definitely reach for it with a little bit more wind. But if I want something to turn a little bit and just kind of hold over, I will definitely go to this Hawkeye here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into my control drivers. This is probably the most extensive spot in my bag because I will tend to lean on the Hawkeyes a lot, especially if I'm in the woods. But the control drivers are definitely a slot that I enjoy because it's not throwing full distance, but they just fit better in the hand. I'm not throwing full power with them, and I can just control lines a little bit better. First thing I have up in my control drivers is I have Champion Valkyries. I have been a Valkyrie thrower since I started throwing disc golf. My first ever disc golf disc was a DX Valkyrie. Me and my brother were throwing sidearm at that time, and I threw it a bunch. This was actually the first Champion Valkyrie that I've purchased. It does have an ace on it at Sky Lodge Camp. But this Valkyrie is the first Champion one I bought. It would literally, I started throwing backhand with it, and it would just throw and then pop up and go for forever, and then finally come back down. A buddy of mine, Adrian, used to say this about my throwing is he goes, you would throw it out and you would think it was about to start hyzering off, and then the disc would just pop up to flat and go. And that was this disc. It would just go for a long time. This was my max distance driver for a long time. Now this disc here specifically is my controlled anhyzer disc. I put it on hyzer like this. It'll pop up to flat, ride over, and then just kind of stay and sit. If I throw it with a little bit more hyzer, I can get it to pop up to flat, ride really far in the woods, maybe have a little bit of fade to it, but it's definitely a disc that is more specific in my bag at this point in time. If I'm looking for a huge anhyzer, this is the disc I go to. The other Champion Valkyrie, I like having backups for my discs, so if I throw one, I can turn around and throw the other one. This one's definitely not as beat up, but it actually still flies just a touch more stable than the more beat up one. But this one, I can put it on a little bit of hyzer, it'll pop up to flat, ride for quite a bit, and then just have a consistent fade to it. Again, shaping lines in the woods, it's definitely one of those things where I enjoy shaping lines with this disc. It's definitely one of my favorites. Potentially it could come out of the bag if I found something else that I enjoyed just as much of it, but it has been tried and true in my bag basically since day one. Definitely enjoy it in Champion plastic. My other control driver that I use is the Finish Line Era. So the Finish Line Era I got, and I immediately was like, wow, I never had something in that slot, and I definitely enjoyed it. The Finish Line Era that I started with, though, is a Composite Era. Not this one. I lost the original Composite Era, but I did get this one not that long ago. I bought the Composite Era. You know, I like Champion plastic. So I bought the Composite Era as to just try and see, not knowing that the Composite Eras act quite a bit more overstable than the Forged Eras. So with this with the Composite Era that I got, I immediately threw it and it just went out, and then it just had a nice consistent dump. A lot of people would say like Firebird-esque. I don't like Firebirds. I don't like throwing Firebirds. I would possibly compare this a little bit more to an Orc, but again, I don't like Orcs. I don't like throwing Orcs. But this disc right here, I absolutely enjoy it. It goes for a long way, but it's got a super consistent dump to it and fade to it. I definitely enjoy throwing this disc. This is my overstable wind fighter when I'm throwing like control drives. This is the one that I lean on more often than not. I have a couple more forged eras in the bag. I have a factory second forged era. It's not quite as overstable as the Composite Era, but it does have a little bit more stability on it. I throw this one nice and hard. It doesn't necessarily flip over. It just kind of holds and then dumps pretty good. I have This one here, I was talking to my sister, a little story about this one. I was talking to my sister and said she was going to Worlds, and she said, "Hey, do you want anything?" Or Ledgestone or Worlds. Pretty sure it was Ledgestone. She was going up to Ledgestone and was like, "Hey, do you want anything?" And I was like, "Hey, I want a Forged Era." And she's like, "Okay, I'll keep my eyes out for it." She found this one. This was the only one that was there with the vendors that were there. So this one was the first one I got. Being white, I wanted something to not worry about it in the snow, so I got a pink one. So I liked this disc immediately. It definitely was less stable than the composite one, but it's super consistent. I can throw it out flat and it's just going to pop up, pop over a little bit, but then it's going to come back very consistently. I wouldn't say this is the farthest flying disc in my bag, but it's definitely close. It definitely competes with my distance driver that you'll see here in a second. And then this one is a bomber. This is a first run Forged Era. I can throw it on a little bit of hyzer. It'll just pop all the way up to flat, hold it for quite some time, and then just have a pretty consistent dump to it. These two, I think, fly pretty similar at this point. If you guys know this area and you say hole 18 gold at Fairfield, in Round Lake Beach, throwing this disc at Fairfield on hole 18, I throw it on a little bit of hyzer, throw it nice and consistent. The disc just pops up to flat, rides over a little bit, gets past the OB, typically by about anywhere in between 50 to 25 feet, which is like maxing out at my distance that I have potentially. But these discs are by far some of my favorite. And then I only have one distance driver mold in the bag. Currently, that mold is the Discmania Enigma. So basically, the reason why I wound up with the Enigma is I was throwing destroyers. I threw Hades there for a little bit, especially with medical issues that I was having at one point. But I got to one of those things where I was like, I want the destroyer, but I don't want as much fade. So that's where the Enigma comes in. The flight numbers on the Enigma are 12, 5, negative 1, 2. It definitely doesn't have as much fade as a destroyer, but it does have pretty close to the same amount of stability as a destroyer. So I can throw this one flat and hard, and it'll go out, and then it'll just dump. It'll go for a long time and then dump. So again, I like carrying 2 discs of every disc that I have in my bag. So then that way I have a backup. If somehow I lose this one, I have this one, but also I like to, potentially, if I throw one shot, it doesn't turn out as good, throw another shot, try to figure out what I'm doing, try to figure out what I did wrong. So I definitely enjoy having the Enigma in the bag. It is definitely my bomber disc. If I throw it nice hard and flat, it'll go out. If I put it on hyzer, it'll hyzer really good. If I try to flex it over a little bit, it'll flex for a little bit, but then it's going to, consistently flatten out and fade out. There it is. All right, so that is another AMS in the bag. Thank you so much for tuning into Henry Disc Golf. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have a great day and make it good for somebody else. We'll see you next time.